Hi again. Kenneth Scott Latourette, A History of Christianity, the Byzantine Continuation chapter, page 304. Latourette has been discussing the great strains that had developed, but there are different kinds of strain or stress than had been experienced for the first 7 or 8 centuries of the Church. We're now in the 9th century. We're at the year 880. The 7 ecumenical councils, now called the Great Ecumenical Councils, are all in the past. And all of the doctrinal issues have been pretty much settled. That is to the satisfaction of all. And yes, there was compromise involved. But now the strain is about who has supreme power. So it's a matter of authority more than it is a matter of doctrinal unity. And in the year 880, the living issue is who is to have supreme power. Will it be the patriarchs of the various churches? Will it be the papacy in Rome? Or how about the emperor? And the emperor himself, of course, has gone back and forth between the Western Church and the Eastern Church. Now the Eastern Church is dominant, but the Pope is pulling things back in the direction of Rome. So will this unity that is still real in the year 880, will it survive? Latourette says, in 879-880, a largely attended council met in Constantinople. Photius presided. The papal legates, in the name of the Pope, John VIII, that is, joined with the council and the representatives of the 3 other patriarchs, Jerusalem, Antioch, and Alexandria, in recognizing Photius as the legitimate and canonically elected patriarch. The action taken against Photius by Pope Hadrian II was repudiated by Pope John's representative. Nothing was said about filioque, for in Rome that had not yet been added to the creed. Pope John VIII, although admonishing Photius for his lack of humility, confirmed his reinstatement. The breach between the western and eastern wings of the Catholic Church was technically healed, yet differences remained and were to come again to the fore. As to Photius, some of the partisans of Ignatius remained recalcitrant. On the death of the Emperor Basil in 886, the latter's son, Leo, who came to the throne, was hostile, and Photius resigned. He lived on, but how long we do not know. Within a few decades after his death, he was canonized by the Byzantine Church. We have devoted to Photius and the events associated with him a much larger amount of space than might at first seem warranted. We have done so for several reasons. Photius himself is important, for he was one of the ablest ecclesiastics produced by the Byzantine Church. His career provides a window by which we may gain insight into that church, its politics, the fashion in which it was related to the state, and a little of its life. From it, we can also glean some understanding of the state of the Catholic Church in the 9th century. We see it as continuing to think of itself as one and as intimately related to the Roman Empire. That empire, although sadly diminished in area since the days of Constantine, or even Justinian, was still regarded as inseparable from the Catholic Church. In theory, there was a Christian society of which the Roman Empire was the civil phase, and the Catholic Church, which included all true Christians, cared for what might be called the religious side. The emperor had power in the Church, although that was being challenged in the West, and now and then was being questioned in the East. In the Catholic Church, the Pope asserted his primacy, and to some degree was so acknowledged in both East and West. Yet East and West were continuing to drift apart. Even before Photius, in 781, the popes had ceased to date their documents by the regnal years of the emperors in Constantinople, and in 800 a pope had crowned Charlemagne as Roman emperor. This was followed in the 9th century by the coronation by the popes of some of the successors of Charlemagne. Carolingian emperors regarded themselves as the western colleagues of the eastern monarchs and held the empire to still be one. Towards the end of the reign of Charlemagne, the emperors in Constantinople assented to that claim. In actuality, division was in progress. Not only were strains chronic, but from time to time they became so acute that actual schisms appeared. Thus far, these schisms were temporary, but from the vantage of the perspective of a later age, we can now see that they would eventually become permanent. In spite of protestations to the contrary, the only true Christian unity, that of love, was largely lacking, and from time to time the administrative structure, which presented to the world an impressive facade, and provided an opportunity for unity, broke down, and at best only partially hid the basic conflicts. These were primarily in sectional loyalties, in ecclesiastical customs, and in the rivalry between the sees of Rome and Constantinople. Popes and patriarchs stood up for the authority of their respective offices, and perhaps unconsciously, under the guise of adherence to principle, were jealous for their personal prestige and power. As we have seen, the Catholic Church had grown up within the inclusive political framework provided by the Roman Empire. It survived that realm, but after the scaffolding of the empire fell away, its inherent cohesion was not strong enough to hold it permanently together. Next time, the northward expansion of Byzantine Christianity. So we can see that the division now is not so much on doctrine as it had been for the 5 centuries prior to the 9th century. It is now on the issue of authority. I'll put in a link to by what authority. Why should we believe Jesus Christ but not the Watchtower? See you next time.